Zixnara's tendrils quivered with a mix of excitement and trepidation as she gazed out the viewport of the interstellar shuttle. The swirling blue-green orb of Galactic University, planet GU-7, grew larger with each passing moment. This was it, her chance to prove herself among the brightest minds in the known universe. As a Floatian from the low-gravity world of Aerith, Zixnara had worked tirelessly to earn her place at the prestigious institution. Her gelatinous, translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent hues of purple and blue, reflecting her nervous energy. She'd never been this far from home, never been around so many different species. The shuttle's comm system crackled to life. "Attention passengers, we are beginning our final descent to GU-7. Please ensure all appendages are secured and prepare for gravitational adjustment." Zixnara pulsed a deep indigo as she activated her personal gravity modulator. The device hummed softly, creating a field around her that would allow her to function in the higher gravity of GU-7 without being crushed into a puddle. As the shuttle touched down, Zixnara gathered her courage and flowed towards the exit. The doors hissed open, revealing a bustling spaceport teeming with life forms from across the galaxy. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions scurried, slithered, and floated about their business. A holographic guide materialized before her. "Welcome to Galactic University, Zixnara of Aerith. Please proceed to orientation in Auditorium Alpha 9. Your belongings will be delivered to your assigned quarters." Zixnara pulsed an affirmative and began to navigate through the crowd. She couldn't help but notice the diversity around her, crystalline entities that refracted light in dazzling patterns, amorphous gas clouds contained in sophisticated environment suits, and countless other forms of life she couldn't even begin to classify. As she entered the massive auditorium, a wave of chatter washed over her. Thousands of new students from hundreds of worlds filled the space, creating a cacophony of sounds, smells, and electromagnetic emissions that threatened to overwhelm Zixnara's sensitive receptors. She found an empty spot near the back and settled in, trying to calm her rapidly oscillating core. A hush fell over the crowd as a holographic figure materialized on the stage, a being composed entirely of swirling energy patterns. "Greetings, new students of Galactic University. I am Chancellor Vox, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the most esteemed center of learning in the known universe. You represent the best and brightest of your respective species, chosen from countless applicants to study here and further the cause of galactic knowledge and cooperation." Zixnara felt a surge of pride. She had earned this. She belonged here. The Chancellor continued, "Your time here will be challenging. You will be pushed to your limits and beyond. But remember, the friends you make and the knowledge you gain will shape the future of our galactic community." As the orientation proceeded, Zixnara's excitement grew. The curriculum sounded fascinating: courses in quantum xenobiology, non-Euclidean engineering, and psychic resonance theory. But one announcement caught her by surprise. "This year, we are pleased to welcome our first student from a Class 12 Deathworld," Chancellor Vox declared. "We ask that you show the utmost caution and respect when interacting with Cadet Alex Chen of Earth. Remember, their physiology and psychology may be quite different from what most of you are accustomed to." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Deathworlders were rare enough, but a Class 12. Zixnara had heard stories of such beings, creatures forged in environments so hostile that most species could scarcely imagine surviving there. What would one be like in person? As the orientation concluded, Zixnara made her way to her assigned quarters, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Little did she know that her encounter with the Deathworlder would come sooner than expected, and it would change everything she thought she knew about the universe and her place in it. Zixnara's first week at Galactic University passed in a blur of new experiences and information overload. She had already attended lectures on topics that made her core spin with their complexity, met beings with thought processes so alien she could barely comprehend them, and consumed more data than she had in her entire life on Aerith. But as she flowed into the lecture hall for her advanced xenobiology class, an odd tension filled the air. Students of various species huddled in small groups, their communication appendages twitching nervously as they whispered and gestured. Zixnara approached a cluster of her classmates, a crystalline quartz being named Prism, a methane-breathing Jovian called Gast, and a silicon-based lifeform known as Circuit. "What's going on?" Zixnara pulsed, her bioluminescence flickering with curiosity. Prism's facets shimmered with agitation. "Haven't you heard? The Deathworlder is joining our class today." Gast's gaseous form swirled anxiously within their containment suit. "I heard they can tear durasteel with their bare manipulators." "Unlikely," Circuit beeped skeptically, their LED eyes blinking. "But their biology is supposedly powered by highly corrosive oxidizing agents. We should maintain a safe distance." Zixnara felt a mix of fear and fascination. She had yet to encounter the infamous Earth human in person, and part of her was eager to see if the rumors were true. The class fell silent as Professor Zelith, a towering insectoid being, entered the room. Following close behind was a creature that made Zixnara's surface ripple with shock. The human, Alex Chen, looked so unassuming. Bipedal, with a hard outer shell of artificial fibers covering most of its body. Its exposed areas, face and hands, were a soft pinkish hue. 2 eyes, a protruding olfactory sensor, and a mouth full of calcified structures used for masticating food. How could this be the fearsome Deathworlder they'd all heard about? "Class," Professor Xylith's mandibles clicked, "please welcome our new student, Alex Chen of Earth. Cadet Chen, please take a seat." The human smiled, a gesture Zixnara found simultaneously fascinating and terrifying. As it exposed those sharp, bony protrusions in its mouth, Alex made his way to an empty seat, the other students instinctively pulling away as he passed. "Today," the professor continued, "we will be discussing extremophile adaptations. And to make things more interesting, we'll be conducting a practical experiment." A ripple of excitement passed through the class. Practical experiments were rare and always thrilling. Professor Xylith activated a holographic display showing a rotating image of a complex molecular structure. "This is the cellular structure of a pyrovore from the lava plains of Ignis IV. Your task is to propose and test a method of neutralizing the pyrovore's thermal defenses without causing cellular destruction." The class erupted in a flurry of appendages and appendage analogues raised to ask questions. Zixnara's mind raced with possibilities, her scientific training kicking into high gear. "You will work in pairs," the professor announced, "and to foster interspecies cooperation, I've taken the liberty of assigning partners." Zixnara felt a mixture of anticipation and dread as the professor read out the pairs. When she heard her name, her worst fears were confirmed. Zixnara of Aerith and Alex Chen of Earth. The room fell silent. All eyes, or sensory organs, turned to Zixnara, who felt her form quiver uncontrollably. She was paired with the Deathworlder. How could she possibly work in close proximity to such a dangerous being? As the class broke into pairs and began their work, Alex approached Zixnara's workstation. His footsteps seemed to echo ominously in her sensory perception. "Hi there," Alex said, his voice surprisingly soft. "I'm Alex. It's nice to meet you, Zixnara." Zixnara pulsed a nervous greeting, her translator converting it to standard galactic. Hello, Alex of Earth. I hope we can work well together." Alex smiled again, and this time Zixnara noticed that the gesture seemed to radiate warmth rather than menace. "I'm sure we will. I've read about floatians. Your ability to alter your body chemistry is fascinating. I bet it'll be really useful for this assignment." Surprised by his knowledge and friendliness, Zixnara felt some of her fear begin to dissipate. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. As they began to discuss approaches to the problem, Zixnara found herself impressed by Alex's quick thinking and unique perspective. His suggestions were unorthodox but brilliant, combining principles in ways she never would have considered. Their discussion was interrupted by a commotion from across the room. One pair had apparently made a miscalculation in their experiment. A containment field flickered and failed, releasing a gout of superheated plasma into the air. Panic erupted. Students scrambled for safety, some activating personal shields, others extruding protective membranes. Professor Xylith moved to activate the room's emergency systems, but it was clear the failsafes weren't responding quickly enough. Before Zixnara could even process what was happening, she saw a blur of motion beside her. Alex had vaulted over the workstation and was sprinting towards the source of the plasma leak. "Alex, no!" she cried out, certain she was about to witness the gruesome demise of her lab partner. But what happened next would change Zixnara's understanding of the universe forever. Time seemed to slow as Zixnara watched Alex charge towards the growing pool of superheated plasma. The human's movements were a blur, far faster than she thought possible for a being of solid matter. Alex grabbed a nearby fire suppression unit, a device Zixnara knew was designed for much tamer chemical fires, not the inferno of a pyrovore's plasma. To her astonishment, the human didn't activate the unit. Instead, he twisted it with his bare hands, the metal groaning and warping under forces that should have pulverized the bones of any normal being. With a final wrench, Alex tore the pressurized canister open. A jet of cryogenic foam erupted from the breach, far more powerfully than the device's normal dispersal method would have allowed. Alex aimed this improvised cannon at the plasma leak, coating the superheated material in a thick layer of rapidly expanding foam. The reaction was immediate and violent. Steam exploded outward as the foam made contact with the plasma, filling the room with a thick, obscuring mist. Zixnara's visual receptors struggled to penetrate the haze, but her other senses told her the temperature in the room was dropping rapidly. As the steam began to clear, Zixnara saw Alex standing over the now neutralized experiment, his clothing singed and smoking in places. But the human himself seemed fine, more than fine. He was grinning, his respiratory rate only slightly elevated. "Is everyone okay?" Alex called out, looking around the room with genuine concern. The other students emerged from their hiding spots, staring at Alex with a mixture of awe and terror. Professor Zelith's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in the insectoid species. Cadet Chen, the professor's translator, rendered his clicks into galactic standard. "That was unprecedented. How did you—" Alex shrugged, a gesture Zixnara was coming to recognize as a sign of modesty or nonchalance in humans. "Oh, just a little trick I learned in my high school chemistry class back on Earth. Our lab had a few accidents." The casualness with which Alex dismissed his incredible feat only added to the growing sense of unreality Zixnara felt. She oozed closer to her lab partner, her scientific curiosity overcoming her lingering fear. "Alex," she pulsed, her bioluminescence flickering rapidly. "Your epidermis, it's damaged." Indeed, Zixnara could see angry red patches on Alex's exposed skin where the heat and steam had made contact. Such injuries would be life-threatening to most species, requiring immediate medical attention. But Alex just looked down at his arms and chuckled. "Oh, this. It's nothing, just a little steam burn. It'll heal up in a day or two." The nonchalant response sent a ripple of shock through the gathered students. Healing from such injuries in mere days, without medical intervention. It seemed impossible. Professor Zelith finally regained his composure. "Class dismissed. Cadet Chen, please report to the medical bay for evaluation. The rest of you, we will resume this experiment under more controlled conditions next session." As the students filed out, still whispering and casting furtive glances at Alex, Zixnara found herself lingering. She watched as a medical drone approached Alex, its scanners whirring as it assessed the human's condition. "Fascinating," the drone's tinny voice announced. "Minor epidermal damage, slightly elevated heart rate and body temperature. No sign of internal injuries or cellular degradation. Recommendation: topical analgesic and standard wound dressing." Alex accepted the medkit from the drone with a thank you, then turned to Zixnara. "Sorry about all that excitement. I hope it didn't frighten you too much. Want to grab a meal at the cafeteria and we can go over our notes for the experiment?" Zixnara pulsed an affirmative, still too stunned to form a coherent response. As they made their way out of the classroom, she couldn't help but notice how the other students gave them a wide berth, their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, fixed on Alex with a new kind of fear and respect. It was at that moment that Zixnara realized her university experience, and perhaps her entire worldview, was about to change dramatically. The Deathworlder was not just a curiosity or a potential threat. Alex Chen was a walking, talking reminder of just how vast and varied the universe truly was. And despite the lingering tremors of fear that still rippled through her gelatinous form, Zixnara felt something else growing stronger within her core, an insatiable curiosity to understand this impossible being who had so casually defied everything she thought she knew about biology and physics. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything she and the entire galactic community believed about life, intelligence, and the very nature of existence itself. News of Alex's feat in the advanced xenobiology class spread through Galactic University like a quantum entanglement cascade. By the time Zixnara and Alex reached the cafeteria, it seemed every student, faculty member, and even the automated service units were abuzz with talk of the Deathworlder incident. The cafeteria itself was a marvel of xenogastronomy, designed to cater to the wildly diverse nutritional needs of the student body. Chambers of various atmospheric compositions, temperature zones ranging from near absolute zero to plasma states, and gravity wells of different intensities ensured that every being could find sustenance in comfort. As they entered, Zixnara noticed the usual cacophony of the space dim noticeably. Hundreds of eyes, optical sensors, and other perceptual organs turned to focus on Alex. The human, for his part, seemed either oblivious to the attention or deliberately ignoring it. "So," Alex said casually as they approached the food synthesizers, "what do Floatians usually eat? I'm always curious about other species' diets." Zixnara, still processing the events of the class and the surreal nature of casually chatting with the being who had just performed impossible feats, took a moment to respond. "Oh, we absorb nutrient-rich gases and liquids," she pulsed, her translator rendering her bioluminescent communication into speech. "I usually enjoy a nitrogen-methane blend with trace elements for flavor." Alex nodded, genuinely interested. "Fascinating. I've always wondered. Content from previous sections remains the same." Alex nodded, genuinely interested. "Fascinating. I've always wondered how species with such different biochemistries manage their nutritional needs. For me, I need a mix of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, plus various micronutrients. Watch this." He turned to the synthesizer and spoke clearly. "Chicken Caesar salad, hold the croutons, extra protein, and a side of mixed fruit." The machine hummed for a moment before producing a bowl filled with various plant matter, strips of what appeared to be processed animal tissue, and a selection of colorful spheroids. Zixnara watched in fascination as Alex picked up eating utensils, simple levers used to convey food to his mouth. The casual way he pierced and cut the items in his bowl with the metal implements sent a shudder through her gelatinous form. As they found a table, other students hurriedly making space for them, Zixnara couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. "Alex," she pulsed, her colors shifting to a deep blue of inquisitiveness. "May I ask, how did you do that in the classroom? Weren't you afraid of injury?" Alex paused, a forkful of salad halfway to his mouth. He set it down, his expression turning thoughtful. "Honestly, Zixnara, I didn't really think about it. On Earth, we're taught from a young age to react quickly to dangerous situations. The plasma looked a lot like some chemical fires I've seen before, so I just acted." He shrugged, that curious human gesture again. "As for injury, sure, it hurt a bit, but humans are pretty resilient. We heal quickly from minor wounds like this." Zixnara's form rippled with astonishment. "But the temperatures involved, the caustic nature of the plasma, by all accounts, it should have caused severe cellular damage." Alex grinned, an expression Zixnara was starting to find less terrifying and more endearing. "Well, that's Deathworlders for you, I guess. We evolved to handle some pretty extreme conditions. High gravity, temperature swings, toxic atmospheres. Earth throws a bit of everything at us." As Alex spoke, Zixnara noticed other students at nearby tables leaning in, eavesdropping on their conversation. She realized that many of them had probably never interacted directly with a Deathworlder before. "Tell me about Earth," Zixnara found herself asking, genuine curiosity overcoming her lingering apprehension. "What makes it so deadly?" Alex's eyes lit up, and he launched into a description that left Zixnara and the covertly listening students alternating between awe and horror. He spoke of tectonic plates constantly shifting, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, of storms that could level entire cities, of oceans deep enough to crush most spacecraft. He described predators with claws and teeth that could rend durasteel, and microscopic organisms that could devastate entire populations. And that's not even getting into the things we humans do to ourselves. Alex chuckled. Our history is full of wars, extreme sports, and pushing the boundaries of what our bodies can endure. Did you know we voluntarily jump out of perfectly functional aircraft for fun? Zixnara's translator glitched, unable to find a rational explanation for such behavior. Around them, she could sense the mixture of fascination and terror emanating from their fellow students. As Alex continued to eat and chat, casually discussing horrors that would be apocalyptic to most species, Zixnara felt a profound shift in her perception. This human, this Deathworlder, was not just a curiosity or a potential threat. He was a window into a way of existence so foreign, so intense, that it challenged everything she thought she knew about life in the universe. And yet, here he was, eating a salad and discussing class notes as if it were the most normal thing in the galaxy. As their meal concluded and they prepared to head to their next classes, Alex paused, his expression turning serious for a moment. "Listen, Zixanara," he said softly, "I know I might seem strange or scary to a lot of people here, but I want you to know that I'm just here to learn, like everyone else. I hope we can be friends, and maybe help bridge the gap between our different worlds." Zixanara felt a warm pulse run through her core. Despite everything she'd learned about Deathworlders, despite the incredible differences between them, she realized she was starting to see Alex as just another student, another being trying to make their way in a vast and complex universe. "I'd like that, Alex," she pulsed, her colors shifting to a warm, friendly orange. As they parted ways, Zixnara couldn't help but feel that something monumental had begun. The ripples from Alex's arrival were spreading, and she suspected they would soon become waves that could reshape the very foundations of galactic society. Little did she know just how prophetic that feeling would turn out to be. Weeks passed, and life at Galactic University settled into a new normal. Alex's presence continued to be a source of fascination and trepidation for many, but as students saw him go about his daily routine, attending classes, studying in the library, participating in social events, some of the initial fear began to fade. Zixnara found herself spending more and more time with Alex, drawn by his friendly demeanor and unique perspective on, well, everything. She introduced him to her growing circle of interspecies friends, and together they navigated the complex social landscape of the most diverse student body in the known universe. It was during one of their study sessions in the quantum physics lab that everything changed once again. Zixnara, Alex, Prism, Ghast, and Circuit were huddled around a holographic projection of a particularly tricky wormhole equation when Professor Xylith entered, his mandibles clicking rapidly, a sign of excitement or agitation. "Attention, students," the professor's translator buzzed. "I have an announcement that may be of great interest to you all." The group turned their attention to the insectoid being, curiosity piqued. "The Galactic Science Council has issued a challenge to all major universities," Xylith continued. "They are seeking innovative solutions to a problem that has plagued our expansion efforts for centuries: the terraforming of extreme environments." A ripple of excitement passed through the students. The Galactic Science Council's challenges were legendary, often leading to breakthroughs that reshaped society. "The challenge is this," Xylith's compound eyes seemed to gleam. "Teams must devise a method to make the storm-racked moon of Tempestus Prime habitable for a wide range of species. The catch? The solution must be implemented within a single planetary rotation using only resources that can be transported by a standard cargo freighter." Zixanara felt her form ripple with excitement. This was the kind of complex, multidisciplinary problem she lived for, but as she glanced at her friends, she saw a mix of reactions. Prism's crystalline structure vibrated with enthusiasm, while Ghast's gaseous form swirled anxiously. Circuit's LED eyes blinked rapidly, clearly processing the immense computational requirements of such a task. But it was Alex's reaction that caught her by surprise. The human was grinning, a glint in his eye that Zixanara had come to recognize as the precursor to one of his crazy ideas. "Professor," Alex said, raising his hand, "what are the exact parameters of Tempestus Prime's environment?" Xylith clicked appreciatively at the question. "Ah, ever the thorough one, Cadet Chen. Tempestus Prime is a Class 11 death world. Gravity is 1.4 standard. The atmosphere is primarily nitrogen and carbon dioxide, with trace amounts of methane and sulfur compounds. Surface temperatures range from -70 to 120 degrees Celsius. And then there are the storms." The professor activated a holographic display showing a swirling maelstrom that covered the entire moon. Lightning arced continuously across the surface, while wind speeds exceeded 500 kilometers per hour. Most of the students recoiled at the image. Even Zixanara, who had studied extreme environments, felt a ripple of fear pass through her. But Alex was leaning in, his eyes wide with what could only be described as excitement. "It's perfect," Alex whispered, almost to himself. "What was that, Cadet Chen?" Xylith asked, his antennae twitching curiously. Alex looked up, suddenly aware that all eyes were on him. He cleared his throat. "I said, it's perfect, Professor. For the challenge, I mean. It's a complex problem that'll require thinking outside the box." Xylith's mandibles clicked in what Zixanara had come to recognize as the insectoid equivalent of a smile. "Indeed it is, Cadet. The Council is accepting team applications starting today. I encourage all of you to consider participating. It could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." As the professor left, excited chatter broke out among the students. Zixanara turned to her friends, her bioluminescence pulsing rapidly with ideas already forming. "We should enter," she said, her translator barely keeping up with her excited pulses. "Think about it. With our diverse backgrounds, we could approach this from angles no one else would consider." Prism's facets shimmered in agreement. "The crystalline structures we could create to harness the storm's energy. And I could model atmospheric compositions that could neutralize the harmful elements," Gast added, their gaseous forms swirling faster. Circuit's eyes blinked rapidly. "My processing capabilities could run simulations to optimize our solutions in real time." They all turned to Alex, who had been uncharacteristically quiet. The human had a faraway look in his eyes, as if seeing something none of them could. "Alex," Zixanara pulsed gently. "What do you think?" Alex blinked, coming back to the present. A slow smile spread across his face, one that Zixanara had learned to both anticipate and fear. "I think," he said slowly, "that we're looking at this all wrong. We're thinking about how to change Tempestus Prime to suit us. But what if we changed ourselves to suit Tempestus Prime?" A stunned silence fell over the group. Zixanara felt her form ripple with a mixture of shock and dawning excitement. It was an insane idea, a complete paradigm shift from conventional terraforming philosophy. It was dangerous, possibly unethical, and would likely be met with resistance from the scientific community at large. It was, in short, exactly the kind of idea that might just win the challenge. As Zixanara looked at her friends, she saw the same realization dawning on each of them. They were no longer just students tackling a difficult assignment. They were on the brink of proposing something that could change the very nature of galactic expansion and interspecies cooperation. And at the center of it all was Alex, the Deathworlder who had already changed their lives in ways they were only beginning to understand. Zixanara realized that this challenge was more than just a scientific endeavor. It was an opportunity to show the galaxy what could be achieved when beings from radically different worlds came together. As they began to excitedly discuss the possibilities, none of them could have predicted the incredible journey they were about to embark upon. A journey that would challenge their knowledge, their beliefs, and their very understanding of what it meant to be alive in this vast, wondrous universe. The ripples from Alex's arrival were indeed becoming waves, and soon they would crash upon the shores of the galactic community, changing everything in their wake. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity for Zixanara and her friends. They officially registered their team for the Galactic Science Council's challenge, naming themselves Adaptive Harmony, a moniker that reflected both their diverse nature and their unconventional approach to the problem. Their days became a blur of research, heated debates, and marathon brainstorming sessions that often stretched late into the night cycle. The quantum physics lab became their second home, its holographic displays constantly flickering with new simulations and data streams. It was during one of these late-night sessions that the true magnitude of what they were attempting finally hit Zixnara. "Okay, let's go over this one more time," Alex said, his voice hoarse from hours of discussion. He stood before a hovering 3D model of Tempestus Prime, its stormy surface rendered in breathtaking detail. "Instead of trying to calm the storms or shield against them, we're proposing to create a new subspecies of colonist specifically adapted to thrive in these conditions," he continued, his eyes alight with the fervor of scientific breakthrough. Prism's crystalline form shimmered as they spoke. "My latest simulations show we can engineer a silicon-based exoskeleton that would withstand both the extreme temperatures and the high-velocity particulates in the atmosphere. And I've made progress on the atmospheric adaptation," Gast added, their gaseous form swirling excitedly. "A modified respiratory system that can filter out the toxic elements and actually use the storm's energy to power cellular functions." Circuit's LED eyes blinked rapidly. "The neural interface I'm designing would allow the colonists to sense and predict weather patterns, essentially becoming one with the storm system of the planet." Zixnara felt a ripple of pride and excitement course through her gelatinous form. What they were proposing was nothing short of revolutionary. But as she looked at the haunting beauty of Tempestus Prime's swirling storms, a tendril of doubt crept into her thoughts. "But are we going too far?" she pulsed, her bioluminescence dimming slightly. "Creating an entirely new form of life, specifically to colonize a world, aren't we treading dangerously close to playing gods?" The room fell silent, the weight of Zixnara's question hanging heavy in the air. It was a concern that had been nagging at all of them, lurking beneath the surface of their excitement. Alex stepped forward, his expression serious. "It's a valid concern, Zixnara. We're in uncharted ethical territory here. But consider this, throughout history life has always adapted to its environment. We're just accelerating that process. But there's a difference between natural evolution and engineered adaptation," Circuit beeped, their tone uncertain. "Is there, though?" Alex countered. "Look at us. At this very team, each of our species evolved to survive in wildly different environments. Prism's silicon-based biology, Gast's gaseous form, your ability to alter your body chemistry, Zixnara. These are all incredible adaptations. We're not creating life from scratch. We're combining the best aspects of existing life forms to create something new, something that can thrive where nothing else can." Zixnara felt her doubts begin to waver. Alex had a point. Their proposal wasn't about dominating or conquering Tempestus Prime. It was about finding harmony with it, about expanding the very definition of what life could be. "Besides," Alex continued, a hint of his usual grin returning, "think about the implications. If we can adapt ourselves to Tempestus Prime, we can adapt to almost anywhere. It opens up entire sectors of the galaxy that were previously thought uninhabitable. It could solve overpopulation crises, reduce conflicts over habitable worlds, maybe even allow us to explore beyond our galaxy someday." The magnitude of what Alex was describing sent a ripple of awe through Zixnara. This wasn't just about winning a contest or proving a scientific point. This could fundamentally alter the course of galactic civilization. "We're not playing gods," Prism chimed in, their crystalline surface refracting light in complex patterns that Zixnara recognized as deep thought. "We're embracing the full potential of life itself, its ability to adapt, to survive, to thrive in even the harshest conditions." Gast's gaseous form pulsed in agreement. "And we're doing it through cooperation, through combining our unique strengths and perspectives. Isn't that what Galactic University is all about?" Zixnara felt the last of her doubts fade away, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and excitement. They weren't just solving a scientific problem. They were pioneering a new way of thinking about life, adaptation, and the future of galactic exploration. "You're right," she pulsed, her bioluminescence brightening with determination. "This is bigger than us, bigger than the challenge. This could change everything." Alex nodded, his eyes shining with a mixture of pride and anticipation. Exactly. But we've got a long way to go before we get there. We need to make our proposal ironclad, ethically and scientifically.